Welcome friends to another r/maliciouscompliance video. If you want to be a pal, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. That said, our first story of the day is by Kath Joy. You want us to be factual in our report about Mindy? Okay, we'll be factual. Last week I shared a story about my awful colleague Mindy. I never expected it to blow up like it did. However, it wasn't the first time Mindy and our manager were hit with a cold can of malicious compliance, so I thought I'd share the story. I can't take full credit for it. It was a team effort, as you'll see. Upper management decided to trial a new system where colleagues would rate each other. The rules were that all comments had to be constructive. We couldn't write anything spiteful, untrue, or based on gossip. So you could write stuff like, "Colleague is always supportive and offers help when I need it," or "Colleague communicates clearly," and so on. Basically, they wanted us to think about how our colleagues helped us and what they contributed to the team, and encourage them to be positive about each other. These reviews were to be handed to a manager, and only the manager was allowed to read them. As you can imagine, this was tricky when it came to Mindy. For those of you who haven't read my previous story, Mindy fancied herself the queen bee of the office, and she tattled on everyone for petty stuff like using too many staples, or being a few minutes late, and she even kept a tally of how long each of us took going to the bathroom or getting a drink. She was overall a very toxic person. Worst of all, she was our manager's favorite, so she basically got away with everything. I tried to be as diplomatic as possible and wrote that her constant monitoring of our bathroom and drink breaks made me uncomfortable, and that maybe she needed more training because she frequently came to me with complicated queries that were actually pretty standard, or dumping complex cases on me because she said she didn't have time. Again, I wrote them in a way that wasn't accusing, just stating plain facts. Everyone in the team put their reviews in the box on the manager's desk. The manager was supposed to look through them and use it to tackle issues or any areas of discord in the team discreetly. In spite of the fact that these reviews were supposed to be anonymous and only for the eyes of the manager, Mindy somehow found out what was on them, and she was furious. She accused us of ganging up on her and bullying her, and, you guessed it, she tattled to the manager. He called an emergency team meeting to address it. He brushed off our concerns about how Mindy had read them at all. These were supposed to be anonymous and private. "I need you to rewrite them all," he said. We all looked at each other, and one of my colleagues, who I'll call Tom, piped up. "We did exactly as asked. Our reports were truthful and constructive." Manager says, "No, you can't write this. You need to write them again, and this time stick to facts." Our manager snapped, and that was that. Mindy grinned smugly at us as we left. Tom stepped in and suggested we go out together and figure this out. There was no way we were going to lie and say Mindy was a great employee like our manager obviously wanted us to, but we had to do what he said. Tom had been at the company for decades and always stood by his colleagues. He was a genuinely fantastic guy and we all loved him. He suggested we go out for drinks together to discuss it away from Mindy, so we did. At first, none of us knew what to do. What facts can we give about her that won't get us in trouble? "Mindy sits at desk number so-and-so? Mindy has short hair," I said sarcastically. Tom's eyes suddenly lit up. "Yes," he said, "that's exactly what we'll do." We worked together and came up with a plan. We redid the forms and we wrote all the exact same thing. Mindy has short hair, Mindy sits at desk number, Mindy works 9 to 5:30. Literally just a laundry list of mundane facts about Mindy, and our forms were identical. We waited until the last moment to post them in the box. Our manager hit the roof, but there was nothing he could do about it. We did what he asked, and there was no time for him to make us do another, so we just submitted them. The scheme was soon dropped because it created too much work, and was replaced instead with a system where colleagues could nominate each other for awards. Guess who never got nominated for any awards? This is just like a fancier version of, "Okay kids, let's sit in a circle and hold hands and say one nice thing about each other." I wonder if there would even be a good way to write something that sounds positive maybe to the manager, but if it got read by somebody above the manager, they would realize something's wrong. If you were basically told to go back and write something nice, would you still write something truthful that displays how bad Mindy actually was? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Q2005. Staff buying anything to eat must get receipt signed and taped to product. I was the assistant manager in a discount retailer. Every few days, someone in corporate would come up with an idea designed to look good on paper in an office somewhere, I'm sure. Maybe a beautiful PowerPoint display or an Excel sheet loaded with formulas. All fantastic in theory, but painful to implement in real life. On this day, an email came, basically that, from here on forward, anything purchased by staff that was going to be in the staff area would have to have a manager-signed till receipt attached. There would be 2 days grace, and then anything found on the next area manager call would be noted and binned immediately. So regardless if this was a sandwich and a drink for lunch, jar of coffee, or a full shop, it would be binned. Cameras everywhere except the toilet cubicles wasn't enough. Let's let these guys on a pittance know we trust them less than Chris Chan in an old folks home. I didn't know what Chris Chan was this morning. I wish I didn't know now. The company, unable to hold managers, were on a huge recruitment drive. Rather than promote from within, they decided to promote from outside to fill the positions faster. So my store gets a new store manager with limited previous experience and out to make his name in the company. Immediately he hits the canteen, bins everything with no receipt, everything food and non-food. He doesn't give a care. The staff are pissed. Word travels fast. Now I've paid my dues between the on-trade and retail. I started at the bottom sorting bottles for recycling as a kid, and I know enough to know that I and my colleagues are only numbers in the corporate machine, disposable, replaceable, a necessary inconvenience that is to be treated as such and never to be treated as equal to the customer even when they are the customer. Corporate never considered for a moment just how much the staff spent. 45 to 50 people throughout the week supplementing the sales. Understand that when someone's on a timed break, remembering the receipt is not a priority, and then trying to find a manager to sign it. I know I'd often be in the cash office counting tills, and company policy didn't let you leave that room in the middle of a count with a safe open. So by the time a signature was obtained, a fair chunk of your 15 or 30-minute break was gone, and at your own expense. And this applied to me as well. I was expected to get whoever was on with me to sign my receipts. I had a very quick meeting with everyone I'd see over the next few days, explaining this new piece of stupidity and why their coffee, sugar, etc. had vanished, and that it was entirely the new guy. I also pointed out very clearly that anything purchased in the major retailer directly opposite was outside the scope of our employer and could not be touched and needed no receipts or proof of any kind. And if it was touched, I would report it directly to the highest available person I could get, bypassing the area management. It took 3 weeks before the call came. In that time, we stuck to the rules to the letter. The store was down on its week-on-week figure against last year for the last couple of weeks by a few hundred. Guess why? The area manager arrives to investigate how the new store manager's letting the figure slip. Pulls me aside and says, "What the funk is happening with this drop-off?" I explained what happened, how all the staff food and stuff was tossed out with no concern, and how with the situation, the only option is to shop elsewhere. He looked shocked like, how could these idiots do this? He goes off on his phone, comes back, calls me and the new guy into the office, says unofficially revert to normal, this is the only blip in my area. Get these figures right for the next week. It was too late to fix the next week, but within 2 weeks we were okay. And the new guy was seen as the savior and got a move to a brand new store and lasted a month before his team turned on him. End. I feel like in any place where an employee's working there and buys from the shop, they would get some kind of extra perk, not more requirements added on to them. I feel like anybody can clearly see that if you make purchasing a difficult thing, you're gonna get less purchases. Just because they work there doesn't mean that they're gonna keep buying. Our next story is by FASCHCH. It's not a swimming pool. Many years ago, it became law that all swimming pools needed to be fenced separately. The fact that we lived in a fully fenced property with a gate wasn't enough. The swimming pool needed its own fence. Dad ignored the rule as we didn't really use the pool anymore, approximately 30 feet long and 10 feet wide and 6 feet deep in the shape of a kidney. I swam at nationals a couple of times, and my brother was able to bob along pretty well. We didn't have young children come to the house, none of our friends had children, zero point in fencing it. A couple years after it became law, the council started doing inspections to make sure that pools were fenced. The guy was a typical council employee, strutting around in his fiefdom, flexing his muscles and threatening fines in court, etc. Dad got some quotes to have it fenced, which were pretty expensive as the hard paving surrounding the pool was curved, and the fence couldn't be a typical wooden fence as wood doesn't follow curved contours easily, and B, the council bylaw wouldn't allow it as little kids, who were non-existent at our house, could climb the fence using a cross member to get a footing. So Dad kinda ignored the issue for a while until the council guy came back and again started threatening again and gave Dad 30 days or something like that to remedy the issue and sort out the swimming pool. Dad started researching and came up with a solution. The council guy came back 31 days later and was furious that the pool wasn't fenced. Dad took him out to the pool, the approximately 30 feet long and 10 feet wide and 6 feet deep in the shape of a kidney, and he showed the council guy the dozen or so fish and water lilies that now occupied the pool, thus turning it into a fish pond. A pond that was the same size and depth as the swimming pool used to be, which under the law didn't and still doesn't need to be fenced. Game, set, match. Well, I guess the only real downside is you're not going to go swimming, unless you feel okay swimming with the fishes up close like that. But I guess OP said that they weren't really using it anyways, so why not? And our final story of the day is by Grabba the Butt. So you want strict adherence to the city bylaws? You got it, neighbor. So I pulled out my gas-powered pressure washer this past weekend for the first time in 3 years. Figured it was well past time to do some property cleanup. Started at 11 a.m. on Saturday morning, as I didn't want to start too early out of respect for my neighbors. Knocked off around 4 with a couple of breaks in between. Got the back and both sides of the house done. Lots of concrete patio. Figured I can finish the front driveway and retaining wall next day. Fired it up on Sunday at 11 a.m. and got to work for an hour or so. Broke for lunch and then back at it at 1. Maybe an hour or so later, I'm interrupted by the city bylaw enforcement officer who's responding to a noise complaint. Apparently there's a bylaw that prohibits power equipment on Sundays. Okay, I had no idea. Just a warning, no ticket. The guy was actually very nice. I'm a bit annoyed that my neighbors called bylaw on me without at least coming to talk to me first, but okay. At this point, there's a huge mess all over the end of my driveway, the sidewalk, and the street, so I asked the officer if it's okay if I quickly take 5 minutes to clean the mess up and push it all together. He says, sure, no problem, and I quickly start cleaning up. Cue not one but 2 of my old geezer neighbors come running out of their houses to attack the poor bylaw kid. A minute later, he comes back and says, sorry, you need to shut it down now. Okay, he's just doing his job, but now I'm pissed. I've lived here for 8 years, and none of these old jerks have ever even said hello to me or my family. So I get the details of the exact bylaw. Nothing on Sunday, Saturday 9 to 5, should have started earlier, Monday to Friday 7 to 7. As he's leaving, I call out very loudly to him, not really to him. So just so I'm clear, 7 a.m. Monday morning is a-okay? Bright and early on the stroke of 7 a.m. Monday morning, I put an hour of pressure washing in before work. Tuesday morning, another bright and early start. Wednesday's session was truly awesome. Who should stop by this morning while I was working on my retaining wall and sidewalk but my neighbor Baldy McBylaw Caller. I gave him a friendly wave and a neighborly good morning and continued with my work until I ran out of gas. He hung around for a while, glaring unhappily at me, but must have realized that there was really nothing he could do about the situation he had caused. He slunk away a few minutes later. I'm running out of things to pressure wash, but my other neighbors let me know I can borrow his grinder so I can finally get rid of that piece of rebar sticking out of the concrete at the side of my house. Sunday today and tomorrow is a holiday, so I guess it'll have to wait until Tuesday at 7 a.m. Is OP more of a jerk for going ahead and doing this every morning at 7 a.m.? Or are the neighbors more of a jerk for calling the bylaw officer without even attempting to talk to OP? I'm struggling to figure out which direction this one kind of weighs in. I'd love to know which one you think in the comments. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.